welcome to
All My Friends Are Fucked.
Yay.
We're here with Nicky G
And Tarryn.
and our very good friend, Amanda.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Amanda. Hey, Amanda Feldman.
Hi, Nicky G. Nicole.
I know. You don't call me Nikki anymore.
I know.
You came in, you said Nicole. You went into your dark times.
I don't know how that happened or what the transition was, but I always knew Nikki as Nikki. And at some point, I started calling you Nicole. Do you know why? I feel like there were a couple of times where I was trying to be like serious or like emphasize a point. And I was like, Nicole. And now it's all I can call you.
I think it was, I've speculated this, and I think it was post end of your most recent relationship where you would underscore things and be like, Nicole, can you believe it? And I think, and now I think it's just,
Now it's just that. We did a switch because I used to only call you Nicole.
yeah.
And then we
Sometimes
started
you
the
do.
podcast.
You go in and out.
Since
And
the
now you call
podcast,
her
I'm like,
Nikki?
Nikki.
That's so funny. And when I go to text you in my phone, you're still in my phone as Nikki, but I'll go like type Nicole and it doesn't come up. Or like I'll tell Siri, like call Nicole Gershenson. And she's like, did you mean Nikki?
Yeah. That's how my name changed
Wow.
for you.
Yeah, I think so.
Became serious.
So wait, so post-relationship were the dark times, so you started calling everyone by their full name.
Not everyone, but Nikki and I talked pretty incessantly.
Yeah.
She was definitely like probably my number one support person besides Carmen
Yeah.
during that time. And so she was also one of the only people who answered almost all of my phone calls, which was on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah. I want to say we talked almost every day.
For sure. For like most of our phone calls are like an hour long at a time.
I don't know though. There were like some ones where it was just like, I think you needed to hear a voice for like even 10 minutes and be like, I'm going to go in the bath.
But so and to Nikki's point, it wasn't everyone that it got so serious with, or I started calling them all by their first names. But during those conversations, when I was trying to like emphasize something, I'd be like, Nicole, I just don't get it. Or like, can you fucking believe this shit, Nicole?
And then it stuck.
Wait. So let's get into, when did you guys first meet? How long have you guys been friends?
Oh gosh. When did we? 2017?
Yeah, because that was my first year at BJN.
Yes.
The BJN is the juvenile hall that we worked at.
Okay.
Yeah, so Barry
you
J.
guys were
Nidorf.
prison therapists.
And Silmar.
Juvie therapists.
Juvenile. Yeah.
Prison
so
therapists now, juvie therapists then.
Yes.
Got it. Okay,
yes.
okay.
So I never worked in the prison system.
Mm-hmm.
Familiar a little bit with it.
So what was your
Look
first
adjacent.
impression?
Okay, so I actually met, I almost just, like in my head, I stopped myself because I was like,
No,
I
that's
almost met
okay.
Nicole.
you can do it. Yeah.
No, Jesus Christ. I met Nikki before my first day at juvenile hall. It was actually kind of a funny story. So the agency, the community mental health agency that we worked for, puts on this annual LGBTQ like event.
Yeah, like a conference or I don't know. Where
yeah.
I think other DMH agencies can go. Like it's big, right? Like it's one of those things where.
Yeah. And at the time, I wasn't working for that agency anymore. I had worked for them and left to start my private practice. So anyway, my former supervisor asked me if I would come help him at his booth at the conference. And so I was there and I had already gone through the interview process for the position at juvenile hall. And this juvenile hall supervisor reached out to me while I was there to let me know that I got the job. And so I was walking through the conference with my best friend at the time, Kristen, and I was like, oh my God, I got the job. And we were chit-chatting about it, and Nikki happened to be like a few feet in front of me, and she already worked there. And this bitch turns around and she goes, I'm going to be the one training you. I was like,
I was really upset.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't that I was upset that, it's this girl. It's because not knowing that she was in process to get this job. So there was another therapist that I had brought up to my supervisor at the time that I thought would bring in some diversity. It would be because my old partner there was a man. But this particular therapist who was male also had experience with Department of Corrections. And there were certain things where I was like, this is going to be a great fit. And they had already interviewed him and they were like, he's great. Yes. And then I found out, oh, they chose this girl who's basically me. And I was like, we don't, in my mind, I'm like, wait, I thought we were going to have someone else, like someone with other, like more
Another
diversity.
Jewish girl.
That was literally my thought.
I can be the only one.
It wasn't even, I was just like, yeah, that too. I was like, 2 Jewish girls coming in. I was like, we need other representation. So that's what I was really honing in on. And like also because it was presented to me, which makes sense because at the agency that we worked at, they would do that where they present you something where it's like, yes, it's great. Good job with your recommendation. And they would inflate you. And then
they were the biggest gaslighters.
They were yeah. So it's like they would inflate and then, oh, surprise, actually, we never even were going to go with that person type of thing. So
Well,
I think
maybe they were, but like FYI, I had also already worked for the agency, but a different location. So I don't think you knew nothing about me when she heard
so
I
me
love that
from
you
behind.
just turned around and thought, let me speak to this stranger.
Yeah. No, shameless.
Yeah.
But that is also something I was thinking about earlier about our relationship, that you are a shameless person, but in the truest sense of the word, in that I've told you this before. I've told her this before. I have like broken through so much shame in my life because of the kinds of conversations Nicky and I can have, and because she shows up in such a shameless way, in I think like the highest sense of the term, not like, oh, that bitch is so fucking shameless, she like, like walk of shame, but like she is not afraid to just be herself and be open, and I think that was a perfect example of that. And Kristen used to make so much fun of me once we became close friends. She's like, you fucking hated her after she turned around and said that shit to you. And now she's your best friend and you're replacing me. And anyway, and now Nikki's one of my best friends.
That's cute.
So how did you guys become friends all of a sudden? It's just like you started working together.
Yeah, I think we just started working together. She did help train me and like kind of show me the ropes. And
also we realized, because Amanda grew up in Calabasas and my old roommate also grew up in Calabasas. And it turns out that my old roommate's younger brother was her younger brother's friend.
Oh, weird.
And so my old roommate knew all of Amanda's family.
Yeah. So you were connected in that way.
Yeah, so we started finding a lot of crossover, Jewish geography and such.
Yeah.
For sure.
The valley.
Yes. So I think I immediately was like, oh, I don't, whatever my anger was when I introduced myself, I was like, oh, I'm going to train you. Like, it went away very quickly because it was more so I was upset at the agency and felt betrayed by the agency, which I felt betrayed by them often.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah.
I know you do. And I mean, in a way, it's glad that you had whatever situation you did, because now you're working.
It led me to where I am now. And honestly, the juvenile justice system is such like a shit show right now. I'm glad I got out when I did, but at the time I could, hindsight's always 20/20. But at the time I couldn't see it, and it's definitely led me down a great path. So I'm grateful for it.
What's the biggest difference for you in working in prison versus at the juvenile hall?
Yeah. Well, they're basically like those kids in like older, bigger bodies. As a matter of fact, a lot of them have been like popping up on the prison yard like fucking flowers out of the ground, my kids from juvenile hall, because now I've been gone from juvenile hall and here at the prison long enough for the kids to get older and be involved in the adult system now.
In prison.
Well, they're not still in prison, but they've continued repeating those cycles and found themselves involved in the legal system, and now as adults that leads them here. So, but I think the biggest difference, just the culture of like the racial politics. It's less of the gang politics. It's more of like racial issues and grouping there, and the like caliber of violence, right? Like the kids would get into fights, and that's not good. But at the prison, there's like weapons and homicide. So it's a different caliber, I think, of like safety.
Yeah.
Are you like in sessions face to face?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you don't have any fear of anything happening to you?
I don't. I'm not naive. Like I know that anything can happen and someone could get triggered, and you don't know, if they don't know how to regulate, or if they get triggered to a place where you're what's right in front of them or what they're projecting onto you. But for the most part, the the guys who are my patients, they have their own like kind of code book or rule book for how they treat the staff who are not officers.
Got it.
And so they're actually quite protective. I think the worst case scenario would be if there was violence going on between them and I happened to be in the vicinity.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm not scared, but I'm not naive.
Yeah.
And I think I have good rapport with them. So for the most part, I think they respect me anyway. And plus they respect the rules that they live by. So it would be a rare occurrence for any of them to do anything to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the
Crazy.
scariest thing is like honestly getting made fun of.
Oh my gosh, it's my biggest fear.
Wait, by like when they leave?
No, but like
Or in front of your
they'll
face?
punk on you. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. In the juvenile hall. This is juvenile hall. But I would have the
juvenile
same
hall.
fear in prison. Like I wouldn't fear sitting face to face with anyone in that
Right.
situation. It's more so the shit that they're
They're
gonna
talk. It's
about
worse than like a high school cheerleader's
Yeah.
locker room. Like my biggest fear in there is eating shit down the stairs in one of the housing units because they're never gonna let you live it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest fear for me is more so the social implication. Like I remember I used to have a big backpack.
Yeah. I do now too, and it's like embarrassing to walk around with it like
And do you remember what they said when the kids I walked in and they were like, Miss, you look like a kid. You know, they didn't say you look like a kid. They said, Miss, you look like a turtle with pencil-ass legs.
Right?
That's so fucking funny.
Yeah, so that's honestly the thing, and that's their way of like bonding too.
Yeah.
And so whatever. But that's honestly the thing I would fear the most if I ever went back into any sort of
Like
correctional
setting.
facility would be honestly just getting the
Their buy-in.
social aspect of it, kind of having to break through that.
Yeah.
That's the thing to me that's more intimidating or scary,
Than
so
the
to say,
violence.
is being accepted and building relatability between one another because it's so different. And I clearly look different. We look very different. If you feel that going into that.
I feel that way even more so here. And it's so funny. I was one of my kids from juvenile hall. I had an appointment with him at the prison this past week. And I was talking to him about that specifically because he said that his cellmate asked him, because I've gone to his like cell front a few times about previously refusing appointments. So I found myself at his cell front and it came up that we knew each other from juvenile hall. So his cellmate was like, how does she know how to like talk to us like that? And he was telling me that what he told his cellmate was like, I think we kind of put her on game like in juvenile hall because like we let her into our world. And I was like, yeah, I say that all the time about you guys that I worked with in juvenile hall with my new patients that I had never met before in the prison, that the kids in juvenile hall really let me into their world. And that gave me an advantage for stepping into this world in the adult system. But it's even more of like their world here because I have a lot of guys serving life sentences and long-term sentences. And, you know, when the juvenile hall we worked at, they were waiting for their cases to be adjudicated. So they hadn't been sentenced yet. I'm in an environment where they've already been sentenced. So this is like now
Their
their
whole
world,
Yeah,
their whole
yeah,
life.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. I love it though. I love it so much. I have a very part-time private practice and that was always my goal as a therapist, but I took this kind of windy road and this all kind of fell into my lap and I definitely feel like I'm living out my purpose in this life. So we'll see where it takes me and how long it lasts. I don't know how sustainable it is whenever I start a family to continue working in this environment, more just because of the schedule than anything. But you know, I'll leave when I feel ready to leave. But for now, I definitely feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. So I'm really
and it's badass.
It is.
It's kind of awesome.
It is. I could talk about it like infinitely. And it's one of those things that like in dating life, it's like nice. This is what I do for work because people are interested by it.
Yeah.
And it's not like boring for me to talk about my job, you know?
Yeah. It's really interesting talking piece.
Yeah. I don't know if you felt that way when you worked in the halls that like,
I did, and it's so I have so much perspective now working like that I did work there, and I think it's more interesting to talk about now, and I wish it makes me miss it more and hearing you talk about it. And yeah, back then it was, but I I think a lot of, trying to think too, it was prior to COVID. It felt, I don't know. I think back then too, I was in a weird place. I was trying to get my license. I was like flying by the seat of my pants in terms of just like collecting hours, getting licensed, starting a practice, working there. So I think that as much as I was invested there, I had other things about, okay, what do I do next? What do I do next? So I can see that now, but I can speak more about like the importance and the deeper intricacies about it now than I was able to then. So
we would talk about it a lot though.
We would. And that's the thing too. I think working there really fucked me up. Like I think it was the first time I was really introduced firsthand to and see in real time, like systemic oppression, the court system, the legal system, things like how we as people are not taught how to protect ourselves in the legal system. And I think really seeing that was frightening.
Yeah.
It felt like I'm working in a maze in a trap all at the same time, and to see that people don't have like necessarily like the best legal representation, even though public defenders are doing the best they can and they're wonderful and they want to do this work, but they're also stressed. I also think about kids where I'm like, did you even have your Miranda rights read? Was that even? And I think about how many cases that probably could be thrown out in court if there is like record of whether things were said during arrests. And like, I think the more exposure to that was just extremely
it's a lot to take in.
It was.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. It fractured some part of my brain that's still fractured today in terms of how I view certain things legally.
And just how the world operates.
Exactly. It's forever changed me in the best way and sometimes in the worst way too, where there's just a sadness that exists.
Yeah, the vicarious trauma of it, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have stories for days like that in the adult system, even more so.
Yeah.
I actually have a story, not a story, but something. I was talking to one of my patients the other day and I was like, I'm going on my friend's podcast. Can I share this with them? Because I'm so in awe of some of these guys and the way the resilience that they have for these reasons, the things that they're overcoming. And so a lot of the guys who are incarcerated can't access like real mental health support for a number of reasons. First of all, the mental health system there is just a joke. Yeah. And second of all, they have a lot of, again, those politics, that rule book of their own about participating in these services. And my program is specifically an addiction treatment program. So a lot of them will participate in that program, but it's very brief, short-term therapy that's meant to just help the highest risk patients kind of stabilize in their recovery. And so one of the guys who was previously in my group, and then he was referred back and we did that brief, short-term number of sessions, told me he has a contraband cell phone and he is utilizing ChatGPT for therapy. And he's like, I talk to it about my struggles to get help because I can't get sober and I'm really struggling. And you, Amanda, can only provide so much support because that's all your program offers. And I still need help. So he's like, took it upon himself
to sneak in a phone to use ChatGPT.
Well, he didn't sneak in the phone for ChatGPT. Yeah, it's like, they're not sneaking in a phone for ChatGPT.
No, but he has the phone, and he's not sneaking it in. There's a whole prison economy too. Like, how are the drugs in there? How are the phones in there? All the things, right? But he has a phone already, and he's utilizing it in that way. And I was like, I'm so impressed. Like, I'm not condoning you having a phone or breaking any of the rules, but since you're doing that already, I'm really glad that you're using it in a positive way. And it shows that you're like internalizing the therapeutic support of our relationship and finding a new avenue to continue pursuing that for yourself. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Because they never would have pursued any type of therapy on their own, let alone with AI. So I just thought that was kind of like an interesting thing. And I was so proud of him for that in a weird way because like he's breaking a rule to do it. But
Yeah, but it's for
Thought
good
it was interesting.
use.
Yeah,
right. It's weird because like I was saying earlier about like your brain sort of getting or feeling like I have been fractured in some sort of way. It's like weird to think of morality within rule breaking, which exists all the time. Like all of these things exist, but you're not really thinking about it per se, except I think in situations like here where you're like, fuck it. That's great.
A more extreme version, and I'm sure we talked about this at some point when we worked in the halls, is like a lot of people would ask me a lot when I worked there, like, aren't you afraid? Well, they would ask me, like, what have some of these kids done? And I'm like, I do work with kids who have, like, are in there for murder, or attempted murder. They're like, aren't you afraid? And I'm like, well, they're not like sociopaths like running around just murdering people. It's like gang involved. And even in that, you're like that like sliding scale of morality. There's like this gradient of like, they're still taking a life.
Yeah.
But somehow that doesn't carry the same weight of like taking the life of like an intimate partner violence or just random like serial killing type murders, you know?
Yes.
That's the other difference.
That's what I got asked a lot. So I think it was harder for me back then because I think a lot of people, it's like such an interesting thing, but I think most of the concentration is, are you scared? Do you have people in there for murder? Do you have people in there for sexual abuse? Like all of these things. And like, yes, the answer is yes. But then it's like, okay, well, depending on like what they're charged for, there's like plea bargains with certain things, and that just like that expands a whole other thing too, when like you see that people have to take certain charges in order to avoid other things, which is just
it's a chess game.
It is a chess game, and it's really messed up. But yeah, like my whole idea of morality completely just shifted because you look at it in the context of almost like war between two groups of people, and that is normal in that setting.
I used to tell the kids, like, we don't send combat soldiers to war and bring them home and charge them with murder.
Exactly.
And that's sort of the environment they're growing up in. So it's complex and it's the gray area of life, right? Not everything's black and white, I guess.
Yeah. And I to this day, I only had one kid that truly scared me, and there was no gang involvement. It was just, he was not okay. He like, and that's where it's like, there was like really like where I'm thinking about like this adolescent was mentally disturbed, and based on getting to know the little that I did because he was so closed off. I mean, he had a horrific childhood with abuse of, I don't even know what kind, but I that it was very disturbing because he was himself just not
Something
there.
wasn't right.
Something was not right. And really, I've only had that once with another kid a little bit. Like there were some things where I'm like, ooh, that's scary. Like there is something where you're on that. But again, like that's not the majority.
Right.
And I think there's such a misconception where it's like, these kids are sick. They're sick people. It's like, no. Like there's really only so few people that were like disturbing to the point. And he said something to me that was scary. I think I told you that when he like did something to mess with me. He like, I was sitting in an office chair, like a swivel chair, and he kicked the thing. So I just immediately like dropped down in the chair, and he was like, haha, like, and it was just bizarre behavior. Cause like not a lot of that just wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And he was looking at my necklace. Actually, I'm wearing it right now. It's my
The
name
Nicole
necklace.
one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, I can see your heart beating right there. And he was talking about my
remember
major
you telling me
artery.
this. Yeah.
And yeah, right. And it's like, that's kind of a weird just thing you say, like to point that out. It's very vulnerable. And I was just immediately like, I think I said, like, is that necessary? I'm done. You don't need to kick my chair. You don't need to say shit. I like just ended the session there. And we had good rapport. And he was an adolescent where he had gone through multiple therapists. And they were like, oh, we don't know. And it was one of those where it's like, you could do it, which I feel like that was just
you were the garbage can they dumped everything
that's a great way of saying. And
you were
even
like,
at the agency we worked at, I was often a receptacle for clients that had major disturbances because a lot of clinicians are afraid and don't know that they can just put up boundaries and be like, I'm
not
literally leaving the room. Goodbye.
So you were like the Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting. Like the last.
Okay, so it's funny you say that because I think Nikki and I set boundaries in different ways with our patients. Like in the example she just gave, well, it wasn't an example, but in what happened, I might not have ended the session. I would have forced him to explore what was going on that made him feel like that's what he wanted or needed to do to me. And not that you wouldn't. You might have returned to that at a later time.
Right.
But I probably wouldn't have ended the session. I mean, who knows? Because maybe in the room I would have felt
if you felt unsafe.
If I felt
unsafe,
unsafe, right.
I didn't even feel unsafe. I felt angry.
Yeah.
I felt violated in that moment. And I felt like there was a betrayal in our trust. And I just know, and this is where like my anger has been the most useful. My anger has been the most useful when I've worked in rehab centers and when I've worked in juvenile.
Are you someone who feels anger a lot?
All the time. I mean,
really?
Yeah. Oh my God. Anger is like my biggest weakness.
Really?
100%. 100%.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And so I was just like, I'm gonna fucking like, I don't even know. I didn't even know in that moment, but I was just like, we're done. Like, it's just not even like I'm just
thought.
like, fuck you. But I understand wanting to explore that. And that's where I think you're able to do certain things like that. Or in that moment, you can sit with it, even if you feel the sense of like discomfort. You could explore that where I'm like, I'm not even fucking touching.
Well, so what's interesting is
right
part
now.
of that, as you were saying that, I'm realizing part of that for me is actually like comes a little bit from self-abandoning, that like I'm ignoring my own discomfort. And like, look, as a therapist, sometimes you have to learn how to sort of compartmentalize your own feelings or use them at the service of the patient and not get caught up in your own complexes, whether it's an anger complex, whether for me it's a more like passive. I have a lot of boundary issues because of stuff in my relationship with my dad that became apparent to me when on one Thanksgiving, long story short, he said to me, what if I feel rejected by your boundaries? He said that as an adult to me like a few years back, and my whole life all of a sudden made sense. But I get caught up in that complex that actually happened on a date with me the other night. Like I kissed somebody I didn't want to kiss. Like I ignore my discomfort. Sometimes because I'm managing the other person's feelings. And sometimes as a therapist, I'm doing that intentionally to stay with the patient's feelings and give them an opportunity. Like that's why it's easy for me to say, well, I might have done this, which doesn't make it the right thing to do. It's just what I might have done. But I don't know if I would have done that in the moment because I don't know how I would have felt in the moment. And like, you know, if that would have come to me, if it would have been intentional, if I would have gotten triggered in some way. Who knows? But
I don't like when my physical space is altered with.
Right.
So I had that where one kid yanked me. They yanked
your lanyard.
My lanyard.
Oh,
and
shit.
I was like, I went into a moment of like rage when he did that to me. I can't do therapy in those moments. It's hard for me.
And now where I'm at now, I have not a lot, but probably a good handful of times in the 4+ years I've worked at the prison, I've had a lot of guys expose themselves to me or try to start masturbating in front of me. And I think there's such a fine balance between setting boundaries around that, but also exploring these compulsive behaviors, whether it's violating someone's personal space or whatever their patterns of behavior are. It's like a teachable moment, I think is what they say a lot in therapy. Like to offer a corrective experience, whether that's in private practice or in this kind of setting. I think we just see more extreme behaviors in this kind of setting.
Which is incredible because it's like your job. Like you don't have to put yourself through that.
Yeah.
Like I talk to people every day at my job. Like it's therapy, but without the stakes, right? So like I'm like interviewing cast members and like talking to people.
Wait, remind me what you do.
I am a reality TV producer.
That's right. Oh my God, you're so cool.
You're cool.
Nikki, chime in. Oh. You're cool. That's a thing for Nikki and I.
The you're cool?
You're cool. No, you're cool.
Also, when I first met Amanda, even though we were like, I was like, oh, I'm going to train you, whatever. She was also like so cool.
She is cool. I remember the first.
She just looks cool.
You are. You got a cool vibe. Remember the first night we met and
at
we
L
smoked?
Town? Oh yeah, and we went and we left
Swisher Sweets.
No, we did not.
Yes, we did.
No, we didn't. Someone had a vape.
Oh,
and it ran out, and then and I still wanted one. And so we
went to the
left
smoke
El
shop?
Cajon and we
It's
walked.
El Tejano.
El Tejano.
El Tejano.
We say that
Where is
correctly.
El Tejano?
El Tejano.
Yeah.
Where the
Same.
guy I used to hook up with in college was the bouncer.
That was crazy.
Which
that
was
night.
like
right.
wild.
He was the bouncer that night, right?
Uh-huh. Well, we left El Tejano. Thank you for correcting me. And we walked like down the street. What street is it on? It's not on Magnolia.
Yeah.
To a gas station to buy a new one. By the way, it was vanilla. And it was like a thick, chody, like
vape. We bought a vape. Why did I think we got Swisher Sweets? We were both like,
know.
and then you and me we were in some like intense conversation.
Yes.
You and me, when we first met, we just went deep immediately.
Yeah, I tend to be that way.
I like that. Yeah, and I'll match anyone's energy. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. As we talked for a long time.
Yeah, we were vibing.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the cross-pollination that's existed between all of us.
So that is something I have to say that I love about Nicole is I've had a lot of friends in my life who are very, very territorial over their other friends. So like they'll introduce, but then they don't want you to be friends without them. And Nikki is very much like, you love to connect people and love for everyone to just like have a vibe. And it's great because we haven't hung out one-on-one ever still. We're still
I
like, hey,
thought you
should we
guys
get
were going
dinner?
to today
Yeah.
when I planned about my taxes.
But
and
you're
then,
coming along.
But now you're coming.
Yeah.
So we'll have to still get our own time.
I know.
And but yeah, like, I mean, you're so dope. Like, really, truly, I've thought that about you since the day we met. Like, you just
since our
really,
first vape exchange.
Yeah. And so I really do like love and appreciate that about you. Like, there's no jealousy. There's no like, that's my friend. Like, you know, it's just you bring people together. And we've formed like a cute little, I was going to say, whatever the word for trio is, but for four people, because a quad.
Yes. I love our quad.
Actually, Katie is now starting to like
She's
come
in it.
into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to
did
bring
the
her to our like musical thing. Because that's when we really got into it. Our plays.
When we went,
222 is where it started.
And then what was, the Secret Garden when my ex's ex was the cholera dancing around.
I've never laughed.
Maybe don't put that in.
Oh, yeah, right. It was the cholera.
I've realized in my life that it's a pattern that I'm like a fringe friend. So like,
wait, what's a fringe friend?
I'm going to tell you right now.
Oh, okay. Do you know what a fringe
I
friend
made
is?
that word up. I made that term up.
Okay.
Well, maybe not, but
like
that's how it came to me. That I have very close individual relationships with people in my life, but they have like a core group of friends of their own, and I'm like kind of peripherally part of that group of friends, but I'm more on the fringe.
Okay.
Like I'm not in the fold. That's how I feel in life overall. And so I think that is manifesting for me, because the four of you are probably like the only like group of friends I have. Like all my other friends are sort of individual relationships.
That's funny that you say that because you guys are that.
Me
like,
too.
I've created
That's the only group.
I think I'm like insecure
a
about
friend
it
too.
I'm a fringe friend.
Yeah, I am a fringe friend because
We're all
the
fringe
only
friends.
reason. So this all existed because that second. Okay, so that time where we all went to Fat Dog and hung out.
Yes, that was our
You
first
guys
night
didn't
together.
even meet at El Tejano. You met at
Fat
Dog.
And Archie was there.
Yes,
my baby.
and Corey was. Yes. So and Stacy was there, and that sort of kicked off this
our
little
group.
Yes,
and it's the first time that I've ever had a group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Come
I call
together.
you guys my Valley Girl group. Like
I
you're my
love
Valley Girl
that.
friends. And then we have one core group and what's the name of our
When a Thing is Wick?
When a Thing is Wick.
Which is from the Secret Garden.
Yeah. It's
because
not a wick. When a thing is a wick.
Wait, what was the
Can
wick?
I check?
Yeah, of course.
I forgot what it was.
When a thing is a wick.
I don't know if there was a song
line.
about it.
Yeah.
Or was it a song or was it a line?
I think it was a song because we fucking died laughing.
Oh my gosh.
It was so bad.
I
so
could
bad.
not breathe.
And the crazy thing is, that was the first time I ever walked out of a play.
We did
Or
walk out.
musical.
I know. Even though it was so fun.
I don't remember what it means, though. It'd
Me
be great
neither.
to remember because I think there was a reason that we adopted that
Because we used to have a different name.
in the group chat.
Yeah.
It was titled something different.
It was something else, but then we went to that play and then it was
It evolved. It
Yeah.
was
That's
born.
so funny.
But I wish I remembered what it was.
What a funny time.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of funny times, well, this is not even funny times. I don't even know if this is a good segue. I just want to talk about it because it's funny to me.
Okay.
I can't wait for this.
Yeah, because I just want
nervous.
I just want to hear about your clairvoyant journeys, both of you. I
okay.
wore my clairvoyant shirt.
Oh,
for
yeah.
you.
I was
You've
wearing
taken your
mine, but
clairvoyant
I've
shirt
since
off.
taken it off. Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't wear anything.
I
of the
wish
sort.
I was going to
I'm wearing
bring
my angel numbers necklace.
Oh, what is it?
So it says 222, which is an angel number.
And it's
I
the name
know-
of the play.
Thank you for
yes, but that's the
educating me.
reason.
Oh,
That's the reason we went to the play, is because for months I kept seeing 222 posters. And remember, I
Yes.
texted you and I was like, guys, we got to go to this. It's my birthday. And then you guys were all like, fuck, I'm on board. And it was like a horror play.
yes.
And I didn't think it was. I was like, I don't know what
We
it
had
is.
no idea.
No idea.
The scream every
Yes,
like
the scream.
You and I were both like, I remember we looked over each other like, again with this shit. Like, stop fucking screaming.
The lights go out. Yeah.
So was 222 like? By the way, thanks for educating me on what angel numbers are. As if
Bitch,
I
you
didn't
didn't
already
know?
fucking know.
I already
no,
know
I'm
you
joking.
know.
Oh, I was
She
like,
knows.
She's like, it's 222. That's an angel number. Like, thank you.
I know who I'm talking to.
I'm an elite.
Are you?
What's
Because
your
I kind
angel
of
number?
appropriated
44.
this.
Well, so my question for you
Yeah.
was, if I may, even though I'm not the podcaster here, I'm not the host. Was that your angel number like already and you started seeing it everywhere? And at what point did you start identifying with it? What I would love you to educate me on is what is the meaning of 222? Because I know it's an angel number, but I don't know what it represents.
I'm the wrong person to ask this because
You're literally
Because why
this
this
shit
shit
makes me
no,
laugh.
this is why.
This is
So,
why this
guys,
stuff
guys,
makes me
guys.
laugh.
This is my birthday, February
Yes,
22nd.
yes.
So I appropriated this angel number.
Mm.
This is not like my angel number. Honestly, I did like
it
a
is.
whole-
That's your birthday. So
It's my
that
birthday.
your birthday is an angel number.
But I believe my angel number is actually 444.
4 is my lucky number.
Is it?
Yes.
That's so fun.
See, that's
Earlier
my
I was like,
favorite
what's your
number.
angel number? 444.
Probably.
That
That's
I
my
see
angel number,
444
I
a
guess.
lot though.
4,
but-
at least in the tarot, 4 is, and maybe in numerology, it represents like harmony, stability, balance.
Hmm.
2 has a lot to do, obviously, with duality, partnership. But then, like, if it's just a 2, or if it's 2-2, or like 1-1 is different from like the meaning of 1-1-1. So, and there are other angel numbers,
about
like a lot of the tarot.
999.
Yeah, and it does.
666.
I like nines. I like the number
Say
9, but I don't know anything about it.
I feel like
just
we
always-
need to get you a 666.
Because I'm June, or just because 6? Oh, because I'm the devil. That's funny that you didn't know that I had anger stuff, and you want. It's interesting that automatically my number should be 666.
now
to
that she
you.
knows. But angel numbers don't just have to be like consecutive or
Oh,
like
really?
repeating numbers. Like one of the tarot readers I follow, actually a lot of them, but one in particular, she'll like hear ringing in her ear and then she'll check the time and it'll be like a random, like let's say it's like 15 minutes and 32 seconds. She'll be like 1532 and she'll look that up.
Oh,
So just any
interesting.
combination of numbers can have a different meaning.
So what exactly are angel numbers?
They're basically like, if you're seeing that number is whatever that combination of numbers represents, or that single number represents, whatever the meaning or symbology is. I guess for numbers, it would be numerology. It's like that number is catching your attention to then deliver you this message of whatever. It's like your angels are like drawing you to that number to see that, to then communicate this message. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
At least that's my interpretation.
That's
of
what
it.
I've heard too. I just am not super deep.
But it's usually
into
via
it.
time.
It can be via
No.
time. It could be
Right.
date. It could be like
Date. That's
it's only
true.
time because that's when we're seeing numbers.
Well, I was going to
Yes.
say, does it matter if your phone's on military or regular time? Because that can
mean,
make differences.
No, because it's just seeing the
My
pattern. Like one time I looked down, I was driving my car and I looked down at the dash and there were like, I was driving 77 miles per hour.
Yeah, I know.
speeding,
Yeah.
And like my mileage was like 17777. Like, so there were a bunch
Oh,
of
I have.
sevens.
I mean,
like,
I have
so-
stuff like that all the time.
Yeah,
that
so
happen.
it doesn't just have to be the time.
Or
I
like
s-
you pay for something and it's $22.22.
Mhm, mhm.
Oh, that's funny. I never pay attention to that. I do at the like time wise. I do often see like 444 a lot, but that kind of makes sense. Or 333 a lot.
What
which-
does that kind of make sense? It's
I
just as
guess-
probable as any other time on the clock. So if you're seeing it a lot, there's something there for you.
333, isn't that?
The angel numbers would suggest.
Yeah.
3. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, in every horror film, like, people wake up at 3:33 because it's like half the devil's number, or it's like Jesus' number.
I wake up a lot
I don't think I
at
knew
3:30 in the morning, and
3:33.
or like around that time probably that I have, but it's usually like at 3:30 is that I
It's like the cross upside down.
Well, on a not spiritual level, I was just reading.
See, a lot of these things are so not Jewish to me. Even an
Yeah,
angel
that's the
number,
thing.
I'm like, that ain't Jewish.
It's
like an
not.
angel, like angels to me seem so church
It is, though.
that I think it's hard.
It's more
for me.
spiritual. Like, you don't have to ascribe religion to it. And on
Sure,
a non-spiritual level, I was reading an article, I think this morning, that waking up in the middle of the night like that, specifically around the 3 o'clock hour, has to do with cortisol levels.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, but I think that's
Damn,
what's like.
that's less fun.
Yeah.
I thought it was like
I-
the devil, honestly, from all the horror films.
See, that's the thing where it's like a lot of it seems sort of like rooted in Catholicism. For like when I do think of angel numbers, I literally think of like the Sistine Chapel and like the angels on the ceiling, where it's like those are the people delivering my numbers. Like
That's your like
That's
association.
in my
No.
mind.
Because there's different angels.
Angel
There's-
could be your guides, like your
spirit guides.
ancestors,
Yes.
who have passed on, your loved ones.
Like it could be colloquial to like whatever you want angel to make, but my idea of angel has always been in the context of religion
Like a
and
fallen
Michelangelo's.
non-Jewish
Mhm.
religion. Well, I don't know. I know there's Kabbalahism. Wait, what is it called?
Kabbalah. I don't
Kabbalah.
know.
There we go.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about because that's more of the mysticism, but I don't
Yeah.
know anything about angels in that, or I didn't.
So that's a good
learn
example
more.
because you're trying to like associate it or make it fit with religion, and like Kabbalah
guess
is like
so.
the mystical sect of
Yeah.
Judaism.
Yes.
So I think all of this stuff is just mysticism and the mystical parts of life, like the supernatural in a way. It's all
Yeah.
in the same realm.
Yes.
I didn't think that there was a mystical part of Judaism. Like when I think the religion of Judaism, I'm like, that is the most like in line religion where it's like nothing out of the ordinary. But I don't know anything about it.
By the way, not Tarryn pronouncing Judaism like a real Jew. And
Oh,
you and
did
I
I?
like Judaism. Yeah,
Judaism.
you're like Judaism.
I know. I never say Judaism.
Love
Wait,
that.
isn't that how it is?
I think so.
Yeah,
probably.
but
Well, I know in the last year you've been on your clairvoyant journey, and
so I was on a more spiritual journey well before this past year. I think
that's
it heightened.
true. That's true. You and I usused to pull cards.
We used to
even
pull
before
cards.
any of that.
Yeah, and
that's true.
it really started for me actually all surrounding like breakups and relationships. I think that's usually a time for me, like attachment stuff when it comes up, where I'm really looking for like answers and for understanding. And several years back, my older brother Justin, who's been on a spiritual journey for a long time, he's like a new age hippie. I'm laughing just because I love him and just all the things that he's introduced me to. But when another relationship of mine ended, actually, when you and I met, part of the reason we started talking a lot, I think, was because that night is because I was talking a lot about my ex at the time.
Yep.
And because it was a pretty recent breakup. So my brother, he said to me one day, you should call this Indian psychic who one of his friends had put him in touch with. And he's like, I had a really interesting call with him. He said a lot of things that really landed. Like, if for no other reason, it might just be like fun for you to hear what he has to say. And it's only 50 euros, which is like basically $50, give or take, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, so whatever, it's $50, like do it. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds kind of cool. I would love to. I mean, I went to a psychic once when I used to smoke weed. I went with my best friend, Megan. We were like super stoned. I don't remember anything she said other than she told me I was going to have 2 kids and they were going to be the same gender. But in any case, I ended up calling Pratik, and both of you know the specifics of the story, but he said a lot of things that at the time I was like, okay, whatever. And then within 6 months, like very specific things that turned out to be true. Horrible things, honestly. Like, could he be right about the good stuff? That would be nice. But I was like, oh my gosh, like there was more buy-in for me because I'm like, how could he? There's no way he could have known that.
Yeah.
And so that really opened me up to all of that. And I had a couple of calls with him where some of the things he then predicted, he went on to predict, sort of unfolded in a pretty similar or like aligned fashion that led into the relationship I found myself in. Well, we broke up, and which brings us to last year.
Yeah.
When I think that breakup like triggered something so deeply in me. I didn't think that relationship was ever going to end.
Yeah.
I really didn't. Even through the challenging times, I really believed that we were going to work through anything and everything we faced. And so it didn't blindside me. Like, we were definitely having a lot of struggles, but I never expected that we wouldn't work through things.
Right.
And we didn't. And it really shook me. And I turned to, I mean, like, you have to find faith in something. And some people find that in religion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I'm not pointing to you
even though I'm not religious at all.
Just because you were the one just
Right.
talking about religion,
Yeah.
right? Some people find that in religion. I don't know what else people find it in, but I had found it in my experiences with Pratik. And so I turned back to that. But I turned back to it in a very like obsessive way because I was struggling to heal.
Right.
And couldn't pull myself out of that place, and wanted and needed answers that I couldn't find within myself, that my ex wasn't willing, for whatever reasons of his own, to give. And so I was searching for those answers. And so I found it in different forms of clairvoyance, whether that was tarot readers, whether that was just people who were like self-proclaimed psychics or clairvoyants. And so I really held on to that. I've started to like loosen the
Have you felt clarity in those and exploring those places?
yes and no lately, and actually quite a bit throughout the last year. There have been so many synchronicities that it's like hard to ignore. Synchronicity is another word for what some people would call like coincidences. Like, how are these things happening? But so there've been a lot of synchronicities, but then they don't manifest or play out in the outcome that I'm expecting. So that's like caused a huge crisis of faith. I think I've been in a really big crisis of faith this past year. Now, prior to being in this particular relationship, I think part of the reason I found myself in that relationship and the timing and how it all fell into place is because Pratik, in a call the year prior, told me, you're not going to be in a relationship this year. So just focus on your work and your career, and it's going to be next year. And then we had another call after where there were some more specifics around that. But I truly surrendered. I would be invited to plans, and prior to that call with Pratik, I would feel this obligation to go out because no one's going to walk into my living room. And I really want to have partnership in my life. I want to start a family. That's like something that is just, it's not a desperate feeling. It's just like something I've always wanted. It's meaningful to me. I find value in that. It's one of the highest principles of life for me, is like love and connection. I think it's part of the reason I'm a therapist. It's just a different kind of love. But in any case, I would pressure myself to always like go out, and if someone invited me out, go to those plans. To the point where, like, again, self-abandoning. I didn't always really want to, but I would push myself. And it's almost like when Pratik told me, you're not going to meet your like somebody this year, this is not the year for a relationship for you. It gave me permission to not have to do that. And I really fell into, it was the first time I understood the meaning of like surrender in an embodied way. And then I met my partner shortly after that. But it left me this year spending a lot of money on what I felt was a tool for me in my healing.
Yeah.
Not in maybe in a Delulu way, like people who spend like thousands of dollars. It's probably not been thousands, but it's probably been like,
is it the equivalent to like a nice bag?
I would say it's, if I really think about it, between the tarot readings and the calls that I've had, I would say, like maybe like around or edging at $1,000.
Okay, that's not that
it's
bad.
Not horrible, but like it's a little excessive.
I was expecting you to say so much more, but when you say 1,000, I'm like, that's 2 haircuts essentially with color.
That's
fair. Not for me. I only spend like $150 on
Yeah, with highlights, with all that, like, or it's a few massages, or like a couple shopping sprees.
Yeah, it's probably about 1,000, maybe give or take.
Not
like
terrible.
Maybe
2 days of work.
I
maybe,
honestly,
depending.
I was thinking you were gonna say like 5 to 10 grand or some shit.
Oh my gosh,
Damn.
no.
Like I didn't know.
Then commit me.
I
if
didn't
something
know.
like
Well,
that happens.
but here's the thing, though. We spend that on therapy.
Yeah, so that's the thing is like I said, it really was a source of it was something I could draw faith from. And I never had that relationship with religion. Like I am a relatively observant Jew. I'm not like anti-religion, but like some people have church or religion, like, or praying to God, like that's where they find comfort in that. For me, it was this, and it's a spiritual practice. And I think part of it and where it gets complex is because I need to find a way to detach from the outcome. But it's tricky because it's like sometimes it comes from a place of like trying to force my will or wanting what I want and looking for validation to then allow me to relax into it, that it's all going to be okay because I'm going to get what I want.
Right.
And that's been a huge part of my therapy is like accepting life on life's terms. And most of us struggle with that, but I deeply, deeply struggle with that. And so there were elements of like clairvoyance that gave me the answers I was looking for that allowed me to still have hope for my life and the things I want in my life. So, and I'm a little bit clairvoyant. I'm going to tell you how. It just happened in the hallway for us. So I'll tell this.
Also, I think you and me coming together.
Yeah, it's
because there's
like some psychic shit. Yeah,
I feel like I'm really intuitive, like spooky intuitive, where I know things, but I don't chalk it up to that. I don't look at it from the lens of how you two do.
Yeah.
But I'll think of somebody and within a couple of days, I hear from them. Yeah. Actually, one of my kids from juvenile hall, he was not one that I had like very strong rapport with. I didn't work with him very long. He came up in a conversation with one of my patients at the prison because of something medical that my patient was sharing. And it was very specific. And it was so specific, has to do with like urinary issues related to a spinal condition. And I had a kid in juvenile hall who had that. So I was telling the patient now about that. I was like referencing that juvenile hall kid. Literally, not but like maybe 4 days later, that kid from juvenile hall is on the prison yard and recognizes me and goes, "Miss, did you used to work at juvenile hall?"
Yeah.
Like what?
But do you think that's because we're in a simulation?
Oh, well, now you're bringing some real funky. See, I was also a philosophy major, and I think it was Barkley who talked about kind of the, not in this exact way, but the idea of like life being a video game kind of thing. I don't know.
These
I
are
mean,
all just personal. Like everyone kind of attacks it differently.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Like I think we're all connected in like weird ways, or just like the mind. I don't know. Again, like there can be like sequences or patterns that we're like really good at picking up. But like when I've wanted information about something, I've like remember when I was like, I just need to hear from my abusive ex, his current girlfriend. I was like, was it me? Like I could not accept that the relationship had devolved the way it did. And I could not like really accept that. Like that, was this really him? Like what the fuck? Like what was wrong with me? And I was like, I need proof that it was like really him, not me. And months later, she called me. She Googled me. My name came up in a fight between them. And she had reached out to me.
So is that like
so it's
manifestation?
Like, I don't know because I've had that. Opposite. I've had that before with like a relationship of feeling that there's this strange other person involved in a relationship, and then she
like
blocked
our
me.
Spidey senses kind of thing.
Yes, and I have it really like crazy, and every time I've leaned into it and had a hunch, I've been right.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, it's hard. I don't know. For me, there's a little bit of a distinction between like, I guess maybe clairvoyance is just is like a form of being highly intuitive. So much so that like, you know, if you want to get existential about it, like space and time being like a social construct and not a real thing, you know, and we're just on these like parallel timelines, and maybe we're accessing other timelines kind of thing. Yeah. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's universal consciousness, kind of what you were saying of like we're all connected somehow. when you're more connected to yourself and more intuitive, I think you can tap into some of these things more intentionally.
I also think some people are born with more access.
Totally.
Like, I think we can all get there if we practice.
Mhm.
I just think that some people, like anything, maybe you're really good at basketball. I don't know. But if I practice a lot, I could get just
Better.
as good. Yeah, exactly.
Or it's like it's just not your natural strength.
Yes.
Exactly.
Like
right.
where even no matter how much you practice, you're wasting your time trying to like evolve one skill where it's something else that's
True,
actually
but
better.
I do think that like most people can get to a place of psychicness. I believe that people have it. Some people just have it more.
So you have developed like would you say like your skill set is like maybe seeing things before they happen? Or
So I would say that I think I'm naturally in touch with if there's like a paranormal or like spiritual world, but I do not practice it. Like, I think if I did, I would find out different things about myself. But yes, like that's where I feel a lot, but I can always be like, oh, that's just because I'm empathetic. I feel energies a lot when like I'm in a room with people. But again, I'm like, nah, that's just because I'm empathetic, right?
Mhm.
And then the parts where like I have seen something happen and then it happens, like those are the moments where I'm like, is that a coincidence or is that, so there is a part of me
I've
that
had
still
that.
rejects it a little bit. But yeah, I think if I practiced it, if I leaned into it, who knows? Who knows what could be there? But I also think it's maybe because I'm a water sign. Are you guys water sign?
No, I'm a fire sign.
I'm a
yeah, you're
Aries
Sag-
season.
You're an
It's Aries
Aries?
season,
Oh my God.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, my birthday's coming up.
Yeah.
That's
What are we
true.
doing for your birthday?
I was thinking maybe like putting a dinner together or something.
Okay,
should we do this?
No,
I'm
we
sad.
should
I don't
just
want this to ever be over.
Well, we can come
do this
back and do
again,
it
yeah.
again. We have so many things to talk about.
Yeah.
So how about let's do 10 words or less.
Okay.
This is so vulnerable.
I know it is. So tell us in 10 words or less how you're fucked.
I'm an overthinking, passive-aggressive, hopeless romantic.
I love that. Is that an Aries?
Oh, she is an Aries.
I am an Aries. Are those like the traits of Aries?
No.
The passive-aggressive part maybe is a little Aryan.
I love
Not
that.
to be confused
Wow.
with Aryan.
I know. I was like, wait.
Wait a second.
I'm assuming that's how you describe a person. Like Libran is for Libra.
No way. What's
No,
a Gem-
these are made up.
No, I swear.
What's a Gemini?
Geminian, like Geminin.
I feel like
Are you a
I
Gem?
didn't make
I
that up,
feel
I
like
swear.
a Gemini is like an
Pisces?
octopus where it's like octopi. It's just
No,
Gemini.
Piscean. Pisces is
Pisces.
Piscean.
I think it's
It is.
Pisces.
What's a
Piscean.
Gemini? Geminian?
Gemini.
I don't know.
These can't be real.
I promise. Look it up.
Come on, Arian, who's working in the prison.
I love that you're a hopeless romantic.
You do? I
do.
don't. I believe in love despite all of the evidence in my life that love doesn't work out. And I think the shadow side of it is that I hold on to and abandon myself for love connections. Hold on to love connections and abandon myself in holding on to them. And so like past their expiration date kind of thing. Or, like they say, love is blind. Like I ignore the thing, not the show, but I ignore the things that affect me negatively in relationships because I hold love as like the highest principle in life. So that matters more than the other ways this person's making me feel. Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, I love you.
I love you. And I love you.
You're cool.
You're cool.
You're cool.
You're cool.
You're cool. You're cool. You're cool.
You're the
I love how I
coolest.
let myself into your inside joke.
You're welcome into it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess
Fold.
this is it.
This is it.
This is it?
All right.
I'm
Okay.
so depressed that this is over.
I know.
You'll come back.
Okay.
We got
Okay.
so much to talk about. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.